Rain of Troy Hotline.
Alicia, Michael, what's going on?
We know you have takes. We have takes.
I'm actually surprised that your Rant Line, Rave Line, whatever, isn't completely full.
Why can't we just win a game?
Can I blame Michael Castillo for this?
Can I blame Bob Connolly for this?
Can I put on a zebra shirt and just go out there?
Scratch, claw, up against the wall.
Can't explain it what I'm feeling right now, guys.
I can't believe it.
Let's open up that Rave Line! Woohoo! Oh, I can't believe USC is 7-5 again. Oh no!
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Retro Radio, episode 566, coming to you on Monday, October 14th. We're going to look back at USC's 33-30 overtime loss to the Penn State Nittany Lions. Open up a gigantic mailbag, a huge mailbag, maybe our biggest one ever here on this episode, which makes it a lot of therapy. This is a lot of much-needed fan therapy for the Trojans. As always, follow us on Twitter at Rate of Troy, like us on Facebook, facebook.com/Rate of Troy, email address rateoftroy@fanside.com, and our phone number, 818-643-7227, Second Whisper and Show. I'm your host, Michael Garcia, journalist, my co-host here in the Radio True studio in Los Angeles, and across the room from me, Alicia Derritola.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. This is going to be an interesting episode. I think that's, remember MTV Unplugged?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite who was, I think Nirvana was incredible on Unplugged. Shakira was good.
I think, yeah, I want to say I watched most of those on YouTube as opposed to live.
Sure.
Yeah. Now that I'm thinking about it.
This is going to be Rot Unplugged today. In the sense that we got so many emails, so many voicemails, and it's a holiday. Both of us off work today. That should be better. It should mean lots of time to pod prep. But we're starting an hour early, even though, of course, we started like 20 minutes late, because there's so much stuff to get to. There's no rant line today, folks. We're just going to get to every call. We got 1 billion calls. So we're going to have a million calls in the mailbag segment. We're going to get to so a lot of the calls had to be truncated, shortened. But I think I made and some of the calls we won't be able to get to because we got so many calls. But I think I got just about everybody who called at least in the show at some point. So we'll get to those. So look forward to those. And then when we do the over under, we're going to go unplugged because no graphics today. We're going to run through it to make more time for you guys, the Rotbots, calling in and writing into the show. As Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, famed former USC play-by-play announcer would say, "This is your show. Take the thing over." So, yeah. It's the Rotbots. It's their show, right?
It is.
Yeah.
Am I supposed to?
I thought you would. I thought you would have some, words of wisdom here.
Oh, okay. My words of wisdom are to stay off of social media.
Mm-hmm. That helps. Yeah.
That helps. My words of wisdom are to take deep breaths.
Sure.
And embrace the Zen.
Yeah. Your CarCast rant, my words on the CarCast, I think also generated the most comments we've ever gotten on YouTube. Hot button episode, I would say.
I'm gonna be honest. A lot of
people loved it. A lot of people hated it.
I'm gonna be honest. I have not looked at the YouTube comments because that's a place, and I know better.
Sure.
But I will say I've gotten a lot of DMs from people saying, like, you're on it, like positive. I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from people. I fully expect the negative feedback that is in the YouTube comments. That's not surprising at all. We
love you, YouTubers.
I will say that, like, I feel bad because I think there are genuinely good fans out there who
Of course, all the rat bots.
who like took some shrapnel from that, I think.
Sure.
And I don't want it to seem like I'm not trying to, and we're going to address this later, I think, with a email we got, but like when I'm yelling at fans who are being crazy, like I'm not like the reasonable fans are not the ones I'm yelling at is really the thing.
Yeah.
And there are reasonable fans who I have seen feedback from that might have taken some things personally that were not directed at them.
All right. Well, let's talk before we get to the ginormous mailbag. Let's just open up your thoughts about SC and Penn State. You've done your rewatch. You've had a good look at it. Well, any new thoughts in the last 48 hours?
Well, I literally just finished the rewatch 15 minutes ago, so I barely had time to digest. But I will say that one of the things that I said on the CarCast that touched a nerve with some people, is that this was a good loss, and I want to talk about the nature of a good loss and what I mean when I say that. There are never losses that will make you feel good. Losses make you feel bad. That's why people talk about them the way they do. Losses are never good for you. You'd always rather win. But I do think that losses tell you something, just the way that like failures in life tell you things. And you never want to experience failure, but there are things that you learn from going through that experience that can help you in the future. And there are, when it comes to sports, when it comes to these kinds of games, there are losses that tell you things about your team. Like there are losses that tell you that you're, not there yet, which is a lot of what felt like the Michigan loss. There are losses that tell you that you cannot ever lose your focus and underestimate an opponent. And
Minnesota.
that's what the Minnesota won.
Yeah.
There are losses that signal and indicate that you are going to lose more. That more losses are coming down the line because this is what you are. And there are losses that signal that you can win more. That there don't have to be more losses down the line. And to me, what this game was one of those losses. One of those losses that tells us that USC has the ability to win the remainder of their games. And I'm including Notre Dame in that statement. Because USC had Penn State, a team that I will go out on a limb and say, I think right now is a better team than Notre Dame. Had Penn State and took them to overtime and had them on the ropes. And at the end of the season, USC is going to have Notre Dame in Los Angeles, potentially able to do something similar. But this loss is not one that indicates that there is anything that USC that is so flawed within USC that there is no hope of them overcoming it. Like we experienced so many losses in 2023, and 2021 felt a lot like this, where it was like, it was like, this is just, there is no way for the defense to be better. Like they're at least not as currently composed. Like you sort of give up. And when I watched this game and then rewatched this game, what I saw was a team that is starting to figure it out on the offensive line. I saw a team that continues to battle and fight defensively and make a hell of a lot of plays defensively. And it is certainly frustrating that USC gave up what they gave up in the end there. Those fourth down plays were devastating. And by the way, if I had to narrow down specific to the defense. One reason USC has lost 3 games this season, there is a very simple answer, and it's another one of those like, oh, just a handful of plays. If they go different, USC wins. Well, but like this is literally what that refers to. In USC's losses this season, opponents who beat USC are 8 of 8 on 4th down.
Mhm.
That's the difference between winning and losing.
Well,
8 plays.
Every one of the 3 losses, the game-winning drive in the fourth quarter, for Penn State, I think this is a little bit different because it's the game-tying drive for them, right? Penn State had, was it 2 or 3 4th downs on that play?
2 4th down conversions.
2 4th downs on that play.
And a few 3rd down conversions.
Minnesota had the 4th down at the goal line.
Mhm.
Michigan had 2 4th downs, one at the goal line and one at like the 10 or whatever it was, right?
Yeah. And so like these are fine when it comes to when your opponents are 8 of 8 on 4th down, like you are doing something wrong, and you can't. It's just like you can't win games where you turn the ball over 3 times, like USC has had the previous 2 games before Penn State. Like that was the problem.
Mm-hmm.
But like in this game, USC was playing a difficult opponent and went toe to toe with them and showed that there is no reason that this team, as currently constructed, with the offensive line the way it is, with the defensive line the way it is, with Eric Gentry out, with Zachariah Branch not being a fully formed football player yet, despite all of those things, this team can still, not just can, should go out and win at least the next 5 games.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that beating Nebraska is going to be easy. I'm not saying that beating even Washington is going to be easy, going up to Seattle or going across the country to Maryland. Like these things aren't going to be easy, but this team as currently constructed should be able to win those games. And that's what I mean when I say it's a good loss in that sense, because being able to take Penn State to overtime is a sign that you have more to you than just, you know, the losses that are on your record. And I know that's not satisfying.
Well, can I offer some feedback here?
Yeah.
I think I completely agree with everything that you're saying, but I think, and this is obviously semantics, but like I think it's the presentation. I don't think you can ever say anything is a good loss, because good loss is something that is looked back in hindsight. You know what I mean? Like if LSU goes undefeated and SC goes 9-3, LSU can say, yeah, that was a good loss in week 1. But LSU isn't walking out of week 1 saying that was a good loss, right? Like a good loss can be assigned in retrospect. And
so what would you call this game? What would you call it? I
think that it's about this was an encouraging performance in a heartbreaking loss, right?
That's
like
fine.
I again, it's semantics, but I think that like when you say good loss or moral victory, like those are but
they
are words that trigger people.
And if people are going to be triggered, that's fine. But there is no substantial difference between the words "good loss" and the encouraging performance in a loss. Because good
the
loss
nuance
is
of what you're saying.
I'm contracting the good performance in a loss. That's literally what good loss means. Like I mean, again, I'm not interested in like a semantic argument. What I'm interested in is whether or not fans are able to come out and look at this game and say to themselves, is USC capable? Do you need to give up hope on this season? Because I see a lot of people saying, I've given up hope. Like I'm done. Do you need to give up hope on this season? And do I need to give up hope on this program?
Yeah.
And my feeling is a 3-3 record sucks. It sucks to be more or less out of the playoff conversation. That's terrible. And I definitely didn't want to be in this position. But the 3-3 record, the way that it was achieved, what's the opposite of achieved? Whatever. The way that it happened is not the same as a 3-3 record of teams that we've seen in the past. And I put this on Twitter. Like, this is a better team today at 3-3 than they were last year at 6-0.
Oh, I agree.
So, like, yes, you can put everything on the wins and losses, and you can do that if you feel like it. But I don't think that's a very productive way to approach sports, especially a sport like college football, where program building is so important and where, people don't want to acknowledge moral victories, but you have to go through these growing pains if you're going to end up anywhere. And nobody wants to experience the growing pains, but sometimes you do have to go through them. And this isn't to say that USC definitely will win the next 5 games, because trust me, if we're sitting here on Saturday night and we're talking about another USC loss, I'm going to feel very differently about the 3-3 record going into Maryland.
Sure.
But as it stands now, when you have a 3-3 record while looking like USC has looked, as Paul K says in the chat, this team is on the correct trajectory. Yeah. And more important than that, the program is on what feels like the correct trajectory. Yeah. Insofar as the deficiencies of this team look like they can become strengths, because USC is going through a lot of growing pains with a lot of young offensive linemen, and those young offensive linemen become veteran offensive linemen eventually, and then you're now building a strength. USC is going through growing pains with a first-time starter at quarterback, and you definitely don't want to be experiencing a couple of those growing pains, but you're also progressing and learning lessons as you go through. And for instance, like in this game, Kamari Ramsey makes a bunch of great plays. I don't think we've seen tackling specifically at the goal line at the level that Kamari Ramsey is tackling guys at the goal line short to save touchdowns. I don't think we've seen that tackling since Talanoa Hufanga. But Kamari Ramsey is also responsible for several of Tyler. What's his
Tyler
name?
Warren.
Tyler Warren. I just kept referring to him as 44 in my notes.
Football Jesus.
Yeah, football Jesus. Tyler Warren's several of his big plays. Kamari Ramsey is at fault. Kamari Ramsey also misses not just not the difficult interception on the final drive, but on an earlier drive, Kamari Ramsey overruns a play and misses what should be a pick six because he just gets a little bit too hyper there, I guess. He overruns it. So, like, you're seeing growing pains from a player like Kamari Ramsey, but you're looking at guys like Kamari Ramsey and Devin Tompkins and Jide Abasiri and a lot of these other guys, that these are the players that are going to be your foundation going into the future. And you're seeing development of tackling under this staff. You're seeing, again, I know that people are big mad about the offense, but I'm gonna tell you,
I think there's context here. They were playing Penn State. We got a comment in the chat from Hector that says the Guru should be putting up 30 plus. Penn State last year, their only 2 losses were to Ohio State and Michigan. Ohio State scored 20. Michigan, a very good Michigan team, they won the national championship last year with actually a good, competent offense, scored 24. Like, I agree, the offense should be scoring more points, but the reason they didn't score, like, scoring 30 points against Penn State is decidedly different than scoring 30 points against Pittsburgh State from D2. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Penn State is a team that hasn't given up 30 points since October of 2022 when they gave up, I think, 40 to
in the regular
Ohio
season.
State.
The bowl game last
I
year.
don't count bowl games anymore because,
they're weird.
Again, they didn't have their defensive coordinator for that bowl game. So,
right.
And also, by the way, like I was looking very closely. Part of the reason my rewatch took so long, I would look very closely at USC's offense in the third quarter. And yeah, there's definitely some frustration with a few of those drives, but it's when I came across, they made a mention of how Penn State hasn't allowed a touchdown in the third quarter this season. I was like, oh, I wonder how far back that goes. Penn State has not allowed a touchdown in the third quarter since the 2022 season. And I'm not even sure when it was in the 2022 season because it's hard to find that data and I didn't have time to go look it up. But like that's the level of defense that USC was playing. This is a defense that, yes, has a new defensive coordinator, but that defensive coordinator is doing a good job. And more importantly, this is a defense that is and has been fully formed for the last 5 years. Right. Where USC's defense is literally an infant child under Danton Lynn. Like this is all learning for them. This is all learning and growing. And I think you do have to give a nod to Penn State because in the end, Warren made an outrageous catch in the end zone on that trick play. That trick play doesn't work if he doesn't make an outstanding catch.
Yeah.
And Drew Aller makes some really good throws on that final drive. And sometimes your opponents are going to come up with those plays. And unfortunately for USC, by comparison, USC didn't come up with those plays. Miller Moss missed some key throws in the end, and it very much hurt USC. Woody Marks has a holding penalty that calls back a long Deuce Robinson run. The refs call a questionable block below the waist as Walker Lyons is blocking a rusher at the shoulder pad, and that pulls away a Woody Marks run. Like there's a lot that's going on with this team, but this offense against this defense did about as well or better than pretty much anybody really does against a Penn State defense. They were at the same time capable of doing more. And I want to call, we need to get to the mailbag, so I don't want to get too much into this, but I was watching Tunnel Vision last night, and Ryan Abraham, I think, made a very good point that this USC team feels more sound than USC has felt in a while. And I think that's why I feel the way I do about them, because there is a soundness that I think you can build upon. What this team is lacking at the moment is their Tyler Warren.
Eric Gentry. Yeah, there's a lot of comments in the chat about Eric Gentry.
Missing Eric Gentry. But so, defensively, it's missing a pass rusher who gets to the quarterback and brings down the quarterback for a sack.
Yeah.
USC has 6 sacks this season. That's simply not good enough through 6 games. Offensively, we wanted Zachariah Branch to be that guy, and he just has not been that guy. Makai Lemon, I saw somebody tweet, and I thought this was I think it was Fight on Rusty, that Makai Lemon is what we thought Zachariah Branch would be. And I think that's very true. But again, he missed a couple games earlier this season. And
I don't want to cut you off, but Makai Lemon is Zachariah Branch with less PR.
Yes. Yeah, pretty much. I saw somebody else compare Makai Lemon to Amon-Ra St. Brown, and I get that that's not a perfect comparison, but I had been thinking that myself, that Makai runs routes and catches the ball and runs with the ball in a very similar way to me that Amon-Ra did. and it's that like sure-handed sort of strength beyond their stature kind of feel. And that's what we're not seeing from Zachary Brent. But you want Jacoby Lane to be that guy, or you want Deuce Robinson to be that guy. You're missing, I mean, we also have not mentioned, like, as good as Kate Eldridge and Walker Lyons have been, this offense is missing Lake McCree, who I think would have been a huge weapon for USC this season. So, there's areas where this team just needs that spark of like the thing to get them over the top. And I have a lot of candidates for who that will be, but this team doesn't go anywhere unless they step up and become that. And that's, to me, going to be the difference between winning the rest of the way and losing them, is who makes those plays when USC needs them.
Yeah, it really is about getting over the hump in like 30 different ways. And I think that's what makes SC frustrating, because
or in one of 30 different ways.
Any one of those 30 different ways. Yeah. Because in this game, SC wins if, I know we do the SC wins if videos, but like when we did that, like SC played the game that they should have been able to win. In retrospect, SC wins this game if they get more points after the interceptions. SC wins this game if they stop any of one of those fourth downs. There's like a million different things. Yeah, it's one play, but there's like 12 plays that could have been that one play, right? And I think that it also goes back to, I think what makes this team so frustrating, but encouraging at the same time, but again, just underscores the frustrating even more, is that they are, I picture like a progress bar. Picture like a progress bar on a computer screen, and it's like 97% of the way to completion in most phases of the game. Like most parts of the game, that's what it is. And you will get a win if you get any one of those to 100. You get the win. And the problem is, or you need enough of them to get to 100, and SC gets half of them to 100 in one game, and in that same game, a bunch of them end up at 97%. And it's like, it's encouraging because you've made all this progress. Like we can with the eye test, you see all this progress that they've made, but they're that much close. I mean, that far away in like 8 different areas, that if any one of those, if there was an Eric Gentry, maybe Eric Gentry makes one play. He makes the play that makes the difference. Maybe it's any of these things. And you've got to find a way to make those without Eric Gentry. You've got to find a way to make those stops on fourth down, because as good as you are in the first 3 downs to force the fourth down, at some point you've got to make the fourth down play.
Yeah.
So you got to go more.
And by the way, those fourth down plays weren't Tyler Warren destroying USC. It was
Also
receivers.
The other thing, I know the Tyler Warren stat line is a thing that pains a lot of people, and I totally understand why, especially when you look back at Dalton Kincaid, the running back from Washington. I don't remember off the top of my head last year that had 1 billion yards, and Christian McCaffrey, all these guys, Kenyon Barner, all these guys who had amazing games against SC, right? I think one of the difference in this game versus so many of those other ones, maybe the exception of the Christian McCaffrey game, is they were talking about this in the Solid Verbal. Penn State uses Tyler Warren literally like somebody in a video game who spams a player. And I think that should take some context. Like, it's not like Tyler Warren got all these catches because he was open every time. He got all these catches on one hand because they did all these crazy trick plays and they were able to scheme him open, which was impressive a bunch of times. But also, Penn State decided their offense was just to be able to throw to this dude any way possible. Whether they're going to scheme him open, they were going to throw to him on every down, they were going to put him in. And when you do that, production comes. Yes, I think SC could have stopped him more often than not, but given the way that they've prioritized him and like their production on offense was going to be heavily skewed towards Tyler Warren, the way that they called the game, no matter what. SC could have stopped him immediately once he caught the ball, and he still could have got 14 tackles in this game. I mean, 14 catches in this game. The SC's problem was limiting the damage, and they didn't limit the damage enough.
Well, Tyler Warren is also, he's lining up as a running back. He's lining up as a tight end. He's lining up as a wide receiver. He's lining up as a center. He's just doing a lot of things. And my problem with the Tyler Warren stuff is there were some drives there where it's like USC's linebackers and safeties didn't immediately have their eyes on 44 and just say, no matter what's going on, I got to go cover 44.
Yeah.
And that's why he was open a couple times. And it was really just because there was one where it was Bryson Shaw. There was one where it was Easton Mascarenas Arnold, where it's like, you're responsible for covering that guy. As soon as you see him come out, you got to go get close.
Yeah.
And they weren't close. So, it's just one of those things that, that's just, sometimes you're just getting beat by a really good player, and sometimes you're not alive to the situation. And sometimes, there's a million other factors that go into it. I am less concerned with Tyler Warren getting. Tyler Warren could have his whatever percentage of yards that you want to give him. If you want to give him, I would give him 100% of Penn State's yards. And I would sign up for that and not feel pretty bad about it if I was holding Penn State under 400 yards. Like if I was holding Penn State, if I wasn't letting Penn State have their second highest yards total of the season.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the whole context. It's the whole picture.
Like he could have 250 yards. Not
he
a problem.
had literally
if that's
all
the
of their
only
offense and
250
nothing
yards
more.
that
Yeah. All right. Let's get to over under. We're going to run through this really quick and then get to the mailbag.
So you're going over. I'm feeling bold. Give me that over.
I'll go under. I got to take an under here. I got 3 unders to take.
I'm going to do an under here.
All right. Let's get to the over unders. Going to run through these pretty quick. Alicia, the first one, you said over under 49.5 third downs for USC. I took the over stupidly. It was under. It was way under. 18. SC was only 2 of 11. Very bad. Not good.
Very bad. And at some point, I think it might have been in the third quarter, USC converts a few third downs in the second half to make this look better than it was. But in the third quarter, USC, I think they were the average starting position for USC's third downs were 3rd and 10.
Yeah.
Not going to do it.
Not good. My first over under, I said 1.5 USC drives that end in Penn State. What am I talking about? Penn State territory without points. You took the under. It was over 2, and that's why SC loses the game potentially, probably. It was key. SC would have got the under if they wouldn't have thrown the interception for Miller Moss at the end. If they finished it off with a field goal at the end of the game, but alas, that did not happen. SC's first drive of the second half saw SC punt from the PSU 48, so that was the first one, and of course the drive right there at the end of regulation. We're not, so it was 2. It was 2 over the over under line of 1.5. We're not counting the overtime drive. That doesn't match the spirit of the overtime rules made SC stall in Penn State territory. If that wasn't an overtime, SC would have stalled in their own territory.
And for the folks at home who think Lincoln Riley abandoned the run in the second half, that drive that we are referring to, Woody Marks gets stuffed on first down. Miller Moss hits Mekhi Lemon for a first down. Woody Marks gets stuffed on first down. Miller Moss, it's an RPO and the box is stacked, so he has to throw it away because they get through. And then 3rd and 11, the pass to Deuce Robinson, where Woody Marks has the holding. And then that's what backs up USC. And there's a false start. They back up even further. And then give it up. So,
yeah. All right. Your next one, over under 0.25 sacks by a USC starter on the defensive line. I was dumb last week. I wasn't going to be dumb this week. I took the under. It was under. It was 0. Not only did USC starters on the defensive line not get a sack, Trojans in general just didn't get a sack. USC is now averaging 0.6 sacks per game against the Power 5 opponent. Power 5 opponent because CFB stats still says Power 5. Only Iowa State and Utah State have worst averages against the Power 5. Both of them are at 0.5. SC's at 0.6 per game. Ironically enough, the Power 5 team with the most per game against Power 5 opponents, LSU, who only had 2 against SC, but 6 against Ole Miss, 5 against UCLA, 5 against South Carolina.
and this is without Harold Perkins, by the way, a few of those.
Yeah.
So it still defies logic what happened with USC against LSU. But again, I credit that in part to the quarterback getting the ball out quickly.
Yeah. My second over under was over under 7.5 Penn State tackles for loss. Penn State was really good coming in. SC had a bunch of negative plays in their previous loss to Michigan. You took the over. It was under. It was 6. Penn State's fewest against a Big Ten opponent since last October against Indiana.
I expected them to get more than 1 sack, and they got as many stuffs behind the line of scrimmage sort of as I expected as well.
Yeah. It was the limitation of the sacks that was big for SC. Last one for you. You said 0.5 plays in the final minute that matter.
Way over.
It took the under. It was over. Yeah. The last minute did matter again.
Yeah.
My last one was over under 26.5. SC's average starting field position. It was over. You had taken the under. It was over at 35. And this is a big old luck bomb from the Trojans here. Greatly helped by the interceptions of Drew Aller. Of the 9 drives that weren't in overtime, or because again, that doesn't really count for yardage, and wasn't by the interceptions. All the drives that SC started from a punt or a kickoff, SC's average starting field position was their own 21. Not good.
Yeah, and USC did drive a couple times out of those poor field position situations, and USC more often than not got near midfield going out of those. Didn't really have very many 3 and outs. I think the only one they had was in the fourth quarter. So, and that was after an interception. So again, it wasn't one of those deep ones. So, the field position battle is making it tough for USC to go down and complete drives, because every drive that is a few plays longer is a few plays more opportunities for an unfortunate penalty or something random.
Yeah, absolutely. You went 2-4. I went 4-2 in over under this week. Big shout out to Dave in Orange County. Dave the Lesser, 6-0. The only 6-0 RoTBot this week. Big ups. Pickle maintains the lead of the RoTBots with a 28-8 record after going 3-3 this week. Jensen SC is in second, just 1 game back. And Scotty C is 3 games back in third with a record of 25-11. Vegas spread was 5. Your score prediction, you had the margin nailed on. You said SC would lose by 3, 27-24. SC lost by 3, but it was 33-30. Alicia, I said SC would win 17-16, and that didn't happen either.
Yeah. Yeah.
There we go. All right. Let's get to the mailbag, shall we?
You've got mail.
All right. Let's start with a voicemail that we got from Fred. I said that there was no rants. I lied. No rant montage, but there's rants.
Hey, Rant, it's Roy. This is LA Fred calling. Well, I'm not going to give you any rant on the offensive line. No rant on the 3 losses in 4 Big Ten games. No rant on the 5-8 record over the past 13 games. No rant on the defense getting 2 interceptions, setting up the offense in plus territory both times, yet to only have the offense muster 2 field goals. No rant on getting outscored 27-10 after halftime. No rant on not making any defensive adjustments while allowing the Penn State tight end to set an NCAA record with 17 receptions, 200-plus yards, 155 of them coming after the dang catch. Holy hell, that pissed me off. No rant on the lack of a go-to number 1 wide receiver. No rant on the lack of a pass rush by the defensive front. No rant on the refs missing multiple pass interference calls in overtime or a below-the-block call on USC while seemingly allowing the same exact block by a Penn State running back to go with no flag. The Trojans had the lead in the fourth quarter of all 3 losses. Yet even with all the defensive improvements this year, they still don't have the ability to make the game-changing play. They lack playmakers. And until we recruit better and develop more depth along the lines, the same thing is going to happen when we play good teams. Have a good week. Fight on, everybody.
I misspoke. Fred is not ranting. He is not ranting. There are no rants there.
Yeah, he got on a roll there. Yeah, I think there's a lot of areas to be frustrated and like we've said, like despite USC's just these little areas where they're not quite to 100%. They are just one thing away from getting there. And if they get all of those things going at one point, then look out, because that'll be really fun. But for now, they aren't all going, and this is the result.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we get to the next call, because we do have more calls, I heard Jessie moving about, so I thought I'd pull up the Jessie cam. She is in frame, barely.
That. She was laying on her bed up until you heard her moving around, and now she's sort of moved a little bit more out of frame, but she's still in there.
Yeah, I kind of wish she was under the table, because then she'd be an underdog.
You're not an underdog, Jessie.
Yeah, she's not an underdog, but you know who is? One of America's favorite apps. It's football season. It's time for you to download and make sure that you continue to play Underdog Fantasy, where you can win up to 1,000 times your money by just choosing whether you think your favorite players will go higher or lower than their stat projections. What you got to do, download the Underdog Fantasy app in the App Store. Go to underdogfantasy.com. Make sure you need to make sure that you go to every Penn State game, and whether it says higher or lower, anything to do with Tyler Warren, just take the over.
No.
Just take the more.
Take the more.
Higher?
No, take the less. Because
you're going to go less.
Remember, just because you have a big game against USC doesn't mean that you will have a big game against everybody else, because USC has a uniquely tuned feature to
he had more yardage than anybody else, like by double, coming into the SC game. So either way, I'm taking higher for Tyler Warren rest of the year. I'm also going to take higher with Mekhi Lemon. So you can join me over on Underdog Fantasy. Making picks on Underdog Fantasy is super easy. Just download the app and go to the website today to check out Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy will give you a free pick on your first pick. Cash Pick'em entry plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. That's Underdog Fantasy promo code Reign of Troy to claim that new customer special and a free pick of your deposit offer. Must be 18 plus, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. And in New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-8778-HOPE-NY. Text HOPE-NY to 467-369. Alicia, we got a bunch more calls, so let's get to John in Oakland. He's definitely not ranting either.
Well, it's over. John from Oakland. Been watching, been hoping. I think we're done. I think USC We'll probably be relegated to FCS Division II. It was a nice try. Lincoln Riley gave it his best, but it may be time to move on. When the evil empire, the Oregon Ducks, who can spend billions of dollars buying players, cheating at every opportunity, and becoming the love of the country from a college football team because they beat the Buckeyes today. They're winning, and USC tries to do it the right way. And we continue to fall down and just can't get it done. So I will see everybody next year. Hopefully 2025 will be a better season for us, but it looks like put a fork in 2024. Take care, guys. Fight on.
Thanks for the call, John in Oakland. I'm bummed that you're not listening because he's already moved on to 2025. He's probably watching the, even though he's in Oakland, maybe I shouldn't mention baseball when he's from Oakland. Never mind. Ignore me.
But John from Oakland is one of our regular callers and
we love John from
emailers. So we love John from Oakland.
We met him at a meetup.
I'm gonna be honest, John from Oakland. People are reacting to this loss like it was 2017 Notre Dame. Like, that's the call I expect after 2017 Notre Dame. Not after USC took the number 4 team in the country to overtime and should have won the game. Like, I don't know, guys. This loss does not mean it's over for USC. Is it over for college football playoff? Sure. But, like, I don't know if college football playoff was never a guarantee anyways. And if you're only watching football for college football playoff, then you're always going to be miserable.
Yeah, it's I get it. It's the frustration stems not from the Penn State game. It's the 2 previous losses. It's the 8 losses in the last 13 games. All that stuff stacks on top of each other. Let's go to a call from Zach in Louisville, Texas. By the way, Zach, go Fighting Farmers, baby.
Hey, this is Zach from Louisville, Texas. Michael said something on the CarCast earlier this week about how the expanded playoffs means that every game doesn't matter all of a sudden. And I want to refute that. I know it's October and it's a little late for this, but I think the opposite, because now if you lose a game in September or you lose 2 games by October, then the games down the line still matter. Whereas in the past, you lose 2 games, none of the games that you have left on your schedule matter, unless you're Ohio State and you luck into the 4th seed. So if if let's say USC comes out and beats Penn State in the 14 playoff, they would still probably be out of contention regardless of what they do the rest of the way, short of a Big Ten championship. But if they had beat Penn State, they're still pretty likely, if they went out, to make this playoff. So I think I understand what you're saying, but I think post-loss games matter more.
Thanks for the call, Zach. I think we're arguing the same thing. I think that I agree. Post-loss games do matter. There's 12 teams now, so there's more teams playing for contention. You can lose 2, potentially 3 games and still have an argument to get into the playoff. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think what I mean by games don't matter as much is the importance of each individual game. Case in point, Oregon, Ohio State. If you're an Oregon fan, that's a huge win for you. You beat Ohio State. You get over some demons with Dan Lanning not beating top 10 teams, all that kind of stuff, right? The flip side is that game is virtually meaningless in terms of winning the national championship, because I think we all agree both teams are making the playoff. As it stands now, I would assume that both teams are going to meet again in Indianapolis for the Big Ten championship game. You know what I mean? Like, the first game, can be rendered meaningless in a hurry in that way. So I think the individual games don't matter as much, but yes, more games do matter collectively as a whole. Yeah.
It's easier to recover from losses.
Yes.
In a way that there's no elimination games unless you've already lost games.
Right. Yeah. And so like if you're Ohio State, like again, the loss hurts. If you're an Ohio State fan, you're not feeling any better today. Absolutely not. But like, did that loss take away your chance to win a national title? Not in the slightest. No. That's where I said I think that it values less. But I agree that like for SC, there's still a lot to play for, because if you go 9-3, I don't think you're going to get into the playoff as it stands right now. You need a lot of help. But in 2016, SC went 9-3, and Colin Cowherd was yelling from the top of a stage, or whatever you want to call it, that SC should get into the playoff. So
yeah, the fact of the matter is there's still a lot of football to play, and I'm not interested in having the playoff conversation, because
no,
I just I'm not interested in it. But again, if you are writing off a season on October 14th after you took the number 4 team in the country to overtime, I don't know. It's not for me. It's personally not for me.
Yeah, especially when we sit here and we whine and complain and agonize how there's no college football for 8 months out of the year, and we count the days. We can't wait for it to come back. Nothing else scratches that itch. I'm sorry, but I know that SC is 3-3 and they're not going to win a national championship barring some sort of miracle. But like, I love college football too much and miss it too much out of the year to sit here and be like, yeah, got to walk away. Which I think Zach agrees. Let's go to the next call from Michael in Iowa.
Hey guys, this is Michael in the 563, and I cannot even begin to tell you how disgusted I am. The game just ended in overtime, and we managed to find a way to lose another one. Now, they're playing like the Chargers play all the time, it seems like. Nobody steps up at a crucial time to make the big play. Nobody defensively, nobody offensively, special teams. I don't know what's going on, and I don't even know how you fix it. Well, that's all I got. Hang in there. Fight on. Bye.
Yeah, like you said, Alicia, missing the spark.
Yeah, the big go-to guy who makes the, not even just a go-to guy, but like the guy who steps up and makes the game-winning play. USC hasn't necessarily gotten that in these games, and maybe USC doesn't have that guy. Maybe he just hasn't emerged. Maybe he was getting held and they didn't call PI. I don't know.
Let's go to Cameron in Frisco, Texas. He called. This is a long call. I had to truncate it a bit, but here's what Cameron had to say.
Hey, Rainer Troy. It's Cameron from Frisco, Texas. Well, I will say that this was the first game this season that I didn't even watch, because I already knew what the script was going to be. I knew Penn State was going to beat USC. I knew USC was going to find a way to lose. So I ended up having the first sign of all USC fans during the Clay Helton era. Fan apathy. I didn't even care about this game, because whether USC was up during the game or found a way to tie the game, blow the lead, found a way to lose, it didn't matter. I didn't care. I knew we were going to lose. Side out, beat the Terrapins.
Yeah, Jesse agrees, I think.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is she heard my nephew in the hallway, in which case she's just going to keep going. And if my brother knocked on the door, then he's in big trouble.
Your thoughts about what Cam had to say?
Well, I get it. I get the fan apathy angle. I just think that going into this game and thinking that USC is going to lose to the number 4 team in the country, that tends not to lose games that they're not underdogs in, and then and then choosing not to watch what was a very good performance from USC means you didn't get to see the good performance from USC. So, like, I don't know. I get it. You do what you got to do, but it's not. Again, it's not for me. Like you said, I spend way too much time thinking about football in April, May, June, July, to then sit here in October and say, like, there's nothing for me here. It's like,
Yeah.
no, I had a ton of fun watching that game. Just didn't have fun watching the end.
Yeah. Let's go to a call from Trinice. Alicia, you want to hop over and see what
I think she has finally settled down.
Okay. All right. Here's what Trinice had to say.
Hi, guys. Shanice from the West Side. Big picture, SC's not bad, right? SC's not bad. In a lot of ways, the program has improved from last year, specifically on the defensive side of the ball. This isn't bad. In a vacuum, we should all be okay with it. Maybe not happy with it, but okay with it. The issue is how they've lost, right? And that's what continues to stand out. Losing to Minnesota, absolute clunker. Like, nothing even needs to be said about that. But Penn State, like, SC had that game in the bag. It was 20-6. They were shutting them down. Like, they looked like they should look against Penn State in the first half. And then the second half came. And it's like everything that was successful in the first half went out the freaking window. And that's what's maddening about it. Like, I'll take the Michigan loss, right? They won the national championship last year. SC was very competitive in that game. And in the end, clock management, I guess, was an issue there. As was the case with Minnesota, as was the case with Penn State. But my point being, like, you lose to Michigan, whatever. I would even say you lose to Penn State, whatever, if they didn't lose the way that they did. If it wasn't 20-6 and then an utter collapse in the second half.
Yeah, I think this is why the context of the full season, I think, absolutely matters. And that in a silo, the Penn State game is not a big issue. If you didn't blow a 14-point lead, and if there wasn't a silo and you know, Michigan and Minnesota, like, those games pile on top of this, like, everything, the entire context is what makes it worse.
And still, USC has lost 3 games by a combined 13 points, with each one of them coming down to the final minute of play. And for me, each one coming down to the defense not getting a stop when they needed it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that comes hand in hand with needing to rebuild your defense. I don't know.
Yeah.
I also don't think it was a collapse in the second half. I like the second half again. Penn State, they just don't give up touchdowns in the third quarter. They go on and score on a trick play with an amazing score, and then a couple great throws and not paying close enough attention to Tyler Warren, and then it's tie game. But even after that, it's a tie game, and USC goes out and takes back the lead twice. Yeah. So it's not a collapse. It's just what good teams do when they fall behind. USC did this to other teams earlier in the season too. And all we talked about was how this is, a good second half team from USC. Well, Penn State's a good second half team, and they fought back. And both of these teams went toe to toe to the end, and USC blinked first.
Yeah, let's go to Dan from Denver.
So this is Dan from Denver calling, and I'm in Seattle right now. And have a little perspective. Yesterday, we put we had my aunt's funeral, hoping to see a Trojans win, make the weekend a little bit better, and get my heart ripped out again. The difference between great teams and good teams is finding a way to win. And right now, we don't know how to win. And what's going to fix it, I don't know. Maybe take play calling away from Lincoln Riley, let him just focus solely on being a head coach. Maybe it just takes our offensive line maturing and growing. I don't know. But this one sucked. Guess we're on to next week. We'll get another win. As always, fight on.
Thanks for the call, Dan. Our hearts go out with you, bud. Sorry to hear about everything going on, and we hope you're good. Elise, your thoughts on the offensive coordinator thing? Jeff in the chat was saying that too.
I don't think Lincoln Riley's play calling or offensive coordinating is the problem. I know people don't want to hear that, but I've rewatched this game. I have a whole notebook full of plays tracked, and when things go wrong for USC, it's I don't think the play calling is the problem. I saw people in the chat saying Riley isn't creative enough. Well, he dials up a fake reverse that scores a touchdown. He's dealing with his offensive line inconsistencies by getting a bajillion different types of screens. USC is doing throwback screens, tunnel screens, bubble screens, underneath routes, drags, every little thing that you can do, dump offs to try and deal with an offensive line that is the way it is. And it's, for the most part, like this offense is actually working to a degree that people don't want to acknowledge because 30 points against a Penn State defense that never gives up 30 points is not enough. There was one drive that I thought that Lincoln Riley's play calling was subpar. And my problem with it is that I personally wouldn't have gone this way. But if you are a play caller, you're an offensive coordinator and a quarterback, and you run an offense where you look at what the defense is doing and then run your offense to then beat that defense, which is something we've been begging for years, then you go and this is drive number 9 for USC. This is right after the interception by the tip ball interception by Easton Mascarenas-Arnold. Drive number 9, 1st and 10. They take a deep shot from Makai Lemon. It's one-on-one coverage into the end zone, deep shot play after a turnover. Is that not what everyone calls for? Why is USC not scoring explosive plays? Well, shot play after a turnover. Makai Lemon either is pulled and should be pass interfered, you get a pass interference flag, or he just doesn't cut his route back quickly enough to. I mean, the way I see it, that ball being thrown back shoulder at the pylon is generally where I assume that ball is supposed to be thrown, and Lemon isn't there for it. Whether it's because he's getting pulled or because he doesn't run his route cleanly enough, I don't know. That somebody else will be the judge of that. But the shot play doesn't work. 2nd and 10. USC runs it short with Woody Marks. Again, people complaining that USC abandons the run. Well, they run it and the play gets blown up. 0 yards on that play. You end up in a 3rd and 10. And you try to hit a back shoulder to Zachariah Branch. And again, do I go to Zachariah Branch in that situation? Probably not at this stage. Probably not. But the back shoulder throw is there, and the coverage is good, and Zachariah Branch doesn't make the play. So is that a play calling problem, or is that an execution problem? Because maybe it's both. But people complain about like, oh, USC abandoned the run. Well, they are running the ball throughout. What's happening in the second half? Runs that were not getting stuffed in the first half are getting stuffed in the second half. And when runs get stuffed because your offensive line is not creating lanes for the running back, you have to start doing other things. And that's what he starts to do. He starts, again, like there are drives all over the place where USC is mixing it up. They're not being predictable. Because if they were being predictable, they would be doing the thing that everyone wants him to do, which is run the ball, which would literally just result in run, punt. And then would everybody be happy? So, this is not an offensive coordinator thing. USC doesn't score 30 points in this game without a quite good offensive coordinator. This was an offensive coordinator duel. But when it comes down to it, like as you and I said on the CarCast, that last throw that Miller Moss throws that he goes too high on Deuce Robinson, that play is there. Deuce is there. if that ball is at Deuce's chest, he catches that, easily gets into field goal range, past, to the 30 at least. So is that a play calling situation? This isn't play calling. It's sometimes your drives get blown up because they call a stupid penalty that they shouldn't call. Sometimes your drives get blown up because your offensive line goes out and gets destroyed on that particular drive. There was a drive, and I can't find it right now. A drive on the right hand side where Alani Noah and Mason Murphy, who had generally done a pretty good job in the run game, both of them two consecutive plays, just nothing, had nothing. So again, is that Lincoln Riley doing a wrong thing play calling? Or is that just when your team when you have the team that USC has from the personnel or experience perspective, those mistakes, they are what wreck your offense. I repeat, I saw somebody say that, like, if you gave 2012 Lane Kiffin this offense, USC would be undefeated. 2012 Lane Kiffin, everyone wanted him to give away play calling.
Yeah,
they hated his play calling in 2012. Where do you run the damn ball? Who do you think that came from? Us watching Lane Kiffin.
Yeah, I in the moment, watching the game, I thought that they went away from the run in the third quarter. But I think they absolutely came back and had a lot of success with the run, because the run was so successful in the first half. In the third quarter, they don't have the success on the run with the run, but they do in the fourth quarter. They're so good at running the ball in the fourth quarter. They go back to it. They find a way to run. It's not like you could say that Penn State's adjustments took away the run. The first drive in the third quarter is run up the middle, stuffed, long pass to Mekhi Lemon for 30, run up the middle again on 1st and 10. Run to the right for a loss of 1. So the first drive in the second half, they're running on first down. It's the second drive that I think that you can be frustrated with, because it's pass, sacked, pass. But again, that's one drive. I think the rest of it does have a lot of runs in there. I think the other thing too is that all play calling frustrations stem out of outcome bias. It always is. You don't like a play call that doesn't work. You like a play call that works. SC's problem right now is not the play calls. It's not the play calls that forced all those the critical errors against Minnesota. It's not the play call that had Jay Fair drop the pass against Wisconsin, or Zachariah Branch drop the pass against Minnesota, or Miller Moss overthrow Deuce Robinson on third down to set up a field goal. Like, it's not the play call. I understand the frustration at the lack of execution, and I think that you can say that all the lack of execution comes back to Lincoln Riley because he's the offensive coach. Yes, 1,000%. That's how it works. The play calling is just it's outcome bias. It really 100%. Is outcome bias. All right, let's go to another call from Dan from Denver again.
This is Dan from Denver again, and I'm not done, because I was sad thinking about all that, but now I'm also kind of pissed off. How did the officials miss those 2 blatant pass interference calls, especially the one with Mekhi Lemon? Now, the reason that we've lost 3 games isn't completely on the refs, but it does raise the question, why are we not getting those calls when the other team is consistently?
Thanks for the call, Dan. I think the refereeing in the Big Ten so far has been atrocious, and I think there's 2 things to mention on that. Alicia, before you hop in here and give your thoughts, like, one, I think this proves that the whole Pac-12 refs thing was always bogus. Pac-12 refs, ACC refs, SEC refs, nobody likes their refs. The Pac-12 refs weren't egregious worse than anybody else. Nobody likes their refs. Secondly, I beg to differ about SC's opponents not getting calls. I mean, that they get the calls. No, I don't think that that's the case. yes, there are 1,000 moments I think you can point to in these, 4 Big Ten games where you can say that the calls were egregious in some ways. But I think that so many times you can look at that and look on both sides. Absolutely on both sides. Like the refereeing is bad in both directions. Genuinely.
Well, I mean, the Tyler Warren touchdown where he makes that great throw, Zion Branch is it's pass interference. Like, they didn't throw a flag there. I don't know if they needed to throw a flag there because he caught it, but they
just don't call pass interference.
They just don't. Yeah. My frustration is that it does feel like USC is not getting the same benefit from calls that are called. Like, it's not evening out for USC on calls that are called. Yeah, I'm sure other fan bases could go through and talk about whether or not, calls went uncalled in whatever case, holding or all that kind of stuff. That's fine. Big Ten doesn't seem to want to call holding flags or PI flags. It's the calls that are called that are very costly to USC, that it doesn't feel like other teams are getting flagged controversially. Like, in this game, they bring Gene Steratore on twice to explain the rules.
Yeah.
And twice he says they shouldn't have called this. The first is the Walker Lyons illegal block below the waist.
I think to be fair to Gene there, I think he said it was like a 50-50.
Well,
like he necessarily wouldn't have called it, but it was a 50-50.
He said he wouldn't have called it, but like, he was explaining the letter of the law that the issue there is that he's not 10-2 with the defender. Yeah. My issue there is it's not a block below the waist. Like, 10-2 should only come into play if he is blocking below the waist. They go shoulder to shoulder. They're both low, but they're blocked shoulder to shoulder. It's not that ain't it. And the earlier one on Kamari Ramsey is blocked into that. He doesn't dive at the guy's feet. He gets pushed to the ground at the guy's feet.
Yeah.
So again, like, where is that call coming from? The one good call was the Woody Marks holding penalty, which, yeah, definitely a holding call.
Yeah.
But like, I think that, as I said in the CarCast, this team feels unlucky as well. Like, luck plays a role sometimes in win-loss records, and people don't like to acknowledge that, but luck plays a huge role in sports more than you like to think. And this team just feels unlucky.
Yeah, I think that, one of the things about the LSU game too is SC wins that game. They also get the benefit of the doubt on a couple of calls on the last drive of the game. It helps. Yeah. I think if without those calls, SC is kicking a field goal instead of Woody Marks walking in the end zone. Right.
Yeah. And
sometimes you're going to get the things go your way and sometimes you're not.
Ohio State gets the play that puts them in field goal range to beat Oregon, called back because of a block. I mean, a pick. Like, yeah, in the end of games, there's always going to be things that impact the end of games.
Penn State had a touchdown come off the board.
Yeah, because of
a pick play. Yeah. And I thought that was a bad call personally. I didn't think it was nearly as egregious as the other pick plays, but it was encouraging to see the Big Ten call something.
I mean, again,
yeah. All right, we got a million more calls. We got to go quickly through these things. Dan in Valley Village.
Hey, Raider Troy, it's Dan from Valley Village. I just want to make sure that this is very, very, very clear. I know two people to blame for where USC is right now in the season. Two people are to blame for the 3 losses. One is the idiot guy who decided to put the Trojan horse in the hype video. And 2 is Alicia for defending it and trying to recapture it for Trojan Nation. Those are the 2 people who are responsible for these losses. I don't want to hear arguments otherwise. The Trojan horse should never have been included, and no one should ever defend it. Love you guys.
Wow, I think what he's saying is...
Can I blame Alicia Dertola for this?
You know what? I accept this blame. as I said, I think that USC has been unlucky this year, and that might be the root of their unluckiness. I'm willing to consider this. Yeah.
So, did anyone ask Lincoln Riley if he was having like an aneurysm in the last minute of regulation? I'm puzzled. Asking for a friend. Love you guys. Bye-bye.
That's Jake calling about the game management stuff, the time management at the end.
Knew this would come up.
I knew it would come up. I've been a broken record about this. I don't think it was a big deal. The whole thing was designed to kick the field goal at the end. I know people are mad that you play for the field goal. Yeah, you play to win the game. You play to win the game by kicking a field goal. That's how it works. Yes, I think it's frustrating to watch when they go slow, but that's what they did against LSU, and it worked twice. That's what Riley does, and it's designed to not allow a rebuttal, either a rebuttal to a score because you scored too quick, or in this case, a rebuttal to a critical error. And there is a critical error. Miller Moss throws an interception on third down, a third down pass that if it was on the mark, Deuce Robinson catches it at about the 37.5. He's most likely probably going to get down to the 33 at worst. He probably gets to the 30-yard line, if not maybe a little bit ahead of that, given how the defense is positioned and given how he's catching the ball in stride, depending on where the ball is, of course. And you kick the field goal as time expires because the timing all worked according to plan. You don't have to like it, but it worked how Riley intended it.
If the plan goes to plan, if the execution is there, I think he gets to the 30. There's still 10 seconds on the clock. USC has 3 timeouts at that point, 2 timeouts.
Yeah.
So you can take a timeout. You can then take another, get even a little bit closer with a quick shot to the outside, or you can center it if you need to with a run. Like, there's a lot of things open to there. The important thing here is when Penn State gets the ball, they don't have enough time to go down and kick a field goal. That's the whole point of running that clock. Now, personally, I'll be ticky-tack. I wouldn't have let it get down to 15 seconds. I would have maybe I would have wanted to work with like 20 seconds personally. But, in the end, I don't think that would have been I don't think that would have been the thing that ultimately lost the game for USC. The idea there worked. The play was open. Deuce Robinson was open.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Miller had enough time to throw. He just missed the pass.
Yeah. Jeff in the chat says that
he's a little bit rushed because a man gets free, but he has time to throw.
Yeah. Jeff in the chat says the plan doesn't work unless you have Caleb. I disagree. The plan worked against LSU. Yes, they benefit from a personal foul in that game on that drive, but Miller Moss threw a couple of really great throws on that drive against LSU. Also, if anything, I think that having a Caleb could make it worse. And not literally, but look at the Utah game last year.
I mean, that was a prime example.
They scored too fast.
Scored too early. We've had so many examples of scored too early from USC in the past. I don't think this is the issue.
Yeah. Again, outcome bias. It's easy. I understand. It's easy to get there. Scott in Memphis.
Hey, Michael, Alicia. This is Scott from Memphis. The game has just ended, and we're 1-3 in the Big Ten, and the games in front of us don't look like much fun. Fight on, and let's just hope for bigger and better things, because we played really well, and we played really well in all 3 of the losses. It's a learning curve that's not going to be fun this year. So anyway, fight on, guys. Let's hope we win in Maryland. Let's hope we can find it on a map. Take care.
Can you find it on a map, Alicia?
I think I could point in the general direction.
We don't have time right now. We got so many things.
Yeah.
But I would love to ask you
for the.
You know what?
For the preview episode, let's do a map.
I want you to draw the map of Maryland, just what you think it looks like in your head, and we'll see how close it is. without looking it up. Maybe you can just draw it on a Post-it note while we go to the next call. This is from Isaiah. I think this is the longest call of the bunch, but it's the last one.
Okay.
Hey, Michael and Alicia. This is Isaiah from Dallas, Texas. And I just had to get some thoughts off of my mind and off of my chest. And a lot of this goes in after the end of this heartbreaking loss. You know, one of the things that we said earlier in the podcast was that Lincoln Riley is behind schedule. And while I do agree, I think we also had the benefit of the doubt having Caleb Williams. And I think having Caleb Williams was a blessing, but also a curse, because it gave us a taste of what a generational talent looks like at quarterback. And I think really changed what the perspective should be on what this program is. The first year, being able to see what was done, the fact that we are one injury from Caleb Williams away from being in the college football playoff that year, and then retaining Al Frinch. And that right there, I think, is what really actually kept us back, because we weren't able to establish really an identity on defense, or really understand what we were working towards in becoming an elite program. And, you know, this year it's really difficult. Obviously, yes, we can say that we're 3 plays away from 6-0, but taking the proper perspective and realizing that Danton Lynn has been an defensive coordinator for 2 years, giving him a little bit more time.
Yeah, we had to cut it there because it was a long call, but thanks, Isaiah, for the thoughts. Yeah, at least a lot of the stuff, a lot of the criticism for Lincoln Riley is because it's year 3, and I think that's 1,000% valid. Year 3 is when it is the proper time to have a referendum on a head coach.
Okay,
I think there is context that makes it a little wonky.
Can I jump to an email we got from Randy in Redlands just before the show, because I think he addresses this potentially better than I could. So Randy says, "Hi guys, it's been a minute since I've written in, but after listening to Alicia's epic rant against USC fans, I felt compelled to do so. I think Alicia was spot on, and I don't think a lot of fans recognize the harm all their negativity can have on the team and the fan base. I have a few comments I would like you and the RoT's to give your opinion on. Number 1, unfortunately, we are not in the 3rd year of a rebuild. This team is in year 1 of the rebuild. Our defense is in year 1 of a new scheme and has a lot of new players, and our offense is very young with only 2 returning starters. We are seeing the growing pains of Lincoln Riley as a head coach, but growing he is. He made the moves needed on defense. He moved away from the transfer portal and moved towards being more of a developmental team, but that doesn't happen overnight. Number 2, this team is better than the teams of the past 2 years, even with a 3-3 record. Even though losses hurt, I feel better coming out of them than I did most of Helton's victories. Number 3, I like the trajectory of this team. We have a good coaching staff. Development is better. Team culture is better. NIL is getting better, and recruiting is on the rise. 4, last year's and this year's recruiting class will lead to a brighter future. 5, if you are a true Trojan, you need to hold yourself to a higher standard. Don't go on social media with all your negativity. Don't lash out at student athletes and try to see the positive just as much as the negative. We all know hindsight is 20/20, but coaches don't have that luxury. Number 6, winning means just as much to the players and coaches as it does to the fans, probably more. They will perform better if they believe the fan base is behind them. Maybe I'm just optimistic, Randy, but honestly, I believe the future is bright. I know it's not happening fast enough for any of us, but it is happening. I look forward to the rest of the season and to what the future has to bring. The disappointments of right now will only make our future successes that much sweeter. Keep the faith. As always, I thank you guys for all you do. Fight on forever, Randy from Redlands." And I want to focus on point number 1, which is, and this is a fact that Lincoln Riley owns. I've said this before. I'm understanding of why USC is the way that they are this year, but USC is the way that they are this year because of Lincoln Riley's missteps.
Yeah.
And he has to own that.
Right.
Number 1 misstep being, this year, we knew going in, we said the timing on this team was off. We said, it's unfortunate because in year 3, USC is going to be breaking in a new quarterback, potentially a freshman quarterback, but a new quarterback no matter what, because Caleb Williams was going to leave after year 2, which meant that USC was going to have potentially a step back offensively in year 3. But the idea was supposed to be that by year 3, the defense will have gotten much better and taken strides so that the step back offensively was going to coincide with the defense being at its strongest. The problem is that Lincoln Riley got the defense all wrong and ended up in a position where year 3, in addition to a completely rebuilt offense because of the loss, not just of Caleb Williams, but of a bunch of offensive linemen, wide receivers, running backs, everything like that. In addition to the offense being in a situation where they were going to take a step back and be in rebuilding mode, the defense is in year 1 of a new defensive coordinator and also in rebuilding mode. USC didn't load up the defensive line during that time, so they're short on the defensive line. USC hadn't been developing linebackers or developing DBs or anything like that because the previous defensive staff was so bad that now you walk into year 3 and you are in year 1. Now, Lincoln Riley got that wrong. It is his fault, from recruiting to NIL to defensive coordinator to all sorts of other things, that he miscalculated a lot of things. And that is why USC is where they are. Having said that, understanding who made the bed that USC is currently lying in. The bed that USC is currently lying in is for year 1 of a rebuild is in a pretty decent spot for hope for the future. That is what you sort of have to recognize, is this year was always going to be growing pains, and they're worse growing pains than we expected because you're also going through growing pains on the defense. But this year was always going to be growing pains on the offense.
Yeah.
And because of the offensive line, it's worse growing pains. But like, this is the year where you're not personally me, I'm not judging win-losses. I am judging the eye test. Does this team show me that they can grow from this point? And thus far this season, despite being 3-3, I have seen marked improvement each and every week in the critical areas of this team that I need to see show improvement in order for me to believe that USC can progress from here. That's where I'm at.
I think like 3 things can be true simultaneously. Danny in the chat says you can't reset the clock every time there's a coordinator change. I agree. I don't think that you need to reset the entire clock. There shouldn't be a resetting of the clock. Hold on. Okay. You shouldn't reset the entire clock there. I agree. And so in terms of the Lincoln Riley era as a big envelope, this is not year 1 of a rebuild. This is year 3. He needs to be judged as it's year 3.
Yes.
Within that, I think you look at it from the defensive perspective. This is year 1 of the defensive rebuild, and it's year 1 of the offensive reload. Those 2 things are different. Reload and rebuild are different words. They mean different things. Pete Carroll had different reloads. He never had to do a rebuild of his own. He rebuilt the program at the beginning, but he didn't have to rebuild his own stuff because he never had a defensive coordinator change. He was always the defensive coordinator. I'm sorry if you think it was Nick Holt. It was always Pete Carroll. So he never had to rebuild the defense that way. And the offense, they're just reloaded every time. And the defense got to the point where
coordinators.
Yeah, the defense got to the point where it just reloaded. They never had to do a rebuild. So this team is like, the defense is essentially rebuilding while the offense is reloading, but as a program, SC is not rebuilding. Like there's layers to this.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating because there's no simple answer, because in a normal sense of it, yes, this is year 3. Year 3 is put up or shut up. Like you need to like prove that you're the right coach in the right spot and all that stuff. And I agree. And like you said, Lincoln Riley made his bed, all that. On the other hand of it, like there is it's not a full reset, but I think there's a partial resetting of the clock in certain aspects.
I'm going to counter.
Even if it's unfair.
to counter one thing.
Sure.
And trust me, I agree. USC should be further along in year 3. Like year 3 should be put up or shut up. You should. This is your program. It's 100% you at this point.
Right.
100%. But from a USC perspective, year 3 is put up or shut up only if you hire a coach to a 4 or 5 year deal. When you hire a coach to a 10-year deal,
I don't think it matters.
It doesn't really matter if there's no shut up, if there's no put up in year 3, because you're kind of stuck.
Yes, in the terms of it's this, no matter what happens, it's not actionable.
Yeah.
Go listen to Tunnel Vision. They had a great talk about this. A million questions about firing Lincoln Riley. Go listen to them. They're going to answer it better than anything that we could in this moment, because we don't have time to go into it. But I think it doesn't matter in the sense of, and this is also why I do not care how much Lincoln Riley makes. That's what the price of doing business is. It's college. You only get Lincoln Riley by giving him a 10-year deal, and you only get him by paying him the $10 million. You are only if you want the coach that has prerequisites, that's the kind of contract you have to give. So, all right, Alicia, I am going to have an executive decision. We have 1 million emails. I think we're going to save the emails to Wednesday.
Okay.
Because literally we have 1 million freaking emails to get through. And if we continue to do this, it's going to be a 4-hour show.
Yeah.
So we will be back on Wednesday to talk more about those.
Before we go back, I've drawn maps.
Oh, let's see it. Let's see it.
Okay. So
this is Maryland. You have not Googled this.
Hold on. No, I've not Googled this. This is a map of the United States with where I think Maryland is on my Alicia's terrific post-it note.
That's like New Jersey, but you're close.
Is it further north or is it further?
You are further north.
I'm too far north.
Yeah, you got to remember, Maryland, technically southern state.
Oh,
it's below the Mason-Dixon.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I realized I have no clue what Maryland, the state, looks like, but this is what I think.
Oh my God. That's West Virginia.
Maybe?
That's a bird beak. Oh my God. Okay, hold on. You Google this. I'm gonna just quickly. This is Maryland. This is Maryland for you right there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I got that wrong.
And you see that thing in the middle? That's DC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now I know. Now I know. You didn't marry me for my geography.
I didn't. I did not. People are laughing in the chat. Yeah. All right. We'll be back Wednesday. We have 1 million more emails. If we didn't get to your email or anything like that, or your Discord questions, we got those too.
I'm gonna fight back. I'm not my US post. I'm not that far, actually.
No, you're not that far. It's a nitpick to say that you're probably circling New Jersey.
I think I didn't really do the Wisconsin, Michigan states properly, but and that's why it looks.
You're close enough. You're close enough. Yeah, you drew it where Medford is and said that that's where San Francisco is.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Relatively, if you squint, it's right. Yeah. All right. We're gonna wrap it up there. We'll be back Wednesday. Again, so much more to come on Wednesday because we have all this stuff, and we're gonna preview Maryland. So until then, we will see ya.
See ya.
See ya.